Goldberg has officially announced that he will be retiring in the summer of 2025, coming back to WWE for presumably one last match. But who should that match be against? Well, that's what we are going to be talking about today. I'm going to be giving you guys 5 possible options which I think could be sensible and are realistic, with number 1 being my personal pick. In at number 5, CM Punk. Now hear me out on this one for a bit because it might seem a little bit out there. After all, they're both, fairly old now. CM Punk doesn't really need a win over Goldberg, so it might seem a little bit random. But there is potentially a phenomenal story to be told here. We know CM Punk is a massive Bret Hart guy. And of course, Goldberg cut Bret Hart's career short. Now, over the years, so much has been said about this, whether or not people are being too harsh on Goldberg, or if Goldberg, should have been punished a lot more for it at the time. But the fact is, Bret Hart still does have an issue with Goldberg, and CM Punk certainly has an issue with Goldberg for cutting short the career of one of his favorite wrestlers of all time. I remember when CM Punk was in AEW, he was constantly taking shots at Goldberg. It was a little bit strange, but I remember one press conference specifically. He was mentioning the Saudi shows and how it sucks Bret Hart's career was cut short by somebody who's now taking that money. So I do think there was a potential for something interesting to be done here, something fun to be done here, with CM Punk wrestling Goldberg, with Bret Hart in CM Punk's corner. Now, of course, a lot of real-life issues are going to have to be put to one side for this to actually happen, but if it does, boy, oh boy, this would be a fantastic storyline and a fantastic career-ending storyline for Goldberg as well. You could even say from CM Punk that he's trying to end Goldberg's career the same way that Goldberg ended Bret Hart's, and then bang, you could wrap up that storyline as well. You can make money off something which they've been talking about for years and years and years now. Do I think this one will happen? Absolutely not, because I can't see Bret Hart even being happy to be involved in a program with Goldberg, even if it's just something like being in CM Punk's corner. But if it does, it would certainly be a fun option. In at number 4, Omos. Now, hear me out on this one as well. I am so sick of everybody basically giving up on Omos. The guy, I think he's only 29 or 30 years old. He is still extremely young for this business, and the guy's got a huge upside. I mean, not only does he look like a star, the guy's a giant, right? You saw him in Japan when he was walking through the streets. It was incredible. But also, his work in Japan shows that he can go. He's not going to be putting on 5-star matches, but he doesn't need to. He can tell a story, and he's an extremely marketable guy. And while since leaving WWE, MVP has taken, in my opinion, some unnecessary shots at the WWE and Triple H's creative specifically, the one point I do agree with him on is the fact that I don't understand how on earth they aren't getting more out of Omos. So bringing him back and putting him in a retirement program with Goldberg undoubtedly could be a way to raise Omos' stock once again. Again, do I think this will happen? Probably not, but I really would not be against this, and I would actually be very happy if it did happen. Now we're getting into the top 3, and all 3 of these choices, at least in my opinion, are very realistic and very possible. In at number 3, we have Obafemi. Right now, the dude is absolutely killing it in NXT. So much so that I do think it's very much a possibility that we could see him on the main roster by SummerSlam. And for that reason, what better way to debut him? What better way to establish him on the main roster in the big leagues than against Goldberg in Goldberg's retirement match? Out of everybody on this list, Obafemi would benefit from it the most, in my opinion, because the other choices in number 1 and 2 both, are already fairly established, right? It would help them, but they are already established, whereas this would establish Obafemi to the masses. And you guys know me, I've been a big fan of Obafemi since the first time I saw him in the ring. I think he's a multiple-time world champion in the future. I think he could be the face of the industry. And big matches like this are what you need to do in order to make sure he can swim with the sharks. And I'm sure he can. Now, the one possible issue with this match is how you actually get this feud underway, right? Because they've not built anything between the two in the past, and there's no natural starting point for the storyline, especially if this is Obafemi's debut match on the main roster. But they have time. They could easily find a way, I reckon. And I would be very excited if this does happen. And what better way to really establish Obafemi on the main roster? But before we get into the top 2, if you guys could like and subscribe, that would be massively appreciated. Here at Wrestling Republic, we create between 5 to 10 free videos every single week, and in addition to that, we also have a live daily stream every single day at 8 p.m. UK, then usually 3 p.m. Eastern in America and 12 p.m. Pacific in America. But right now, because the clocks have changed and the rest of the world hasn't yet, it's currently 4 Eastern and 1 Pacific. I think it's end of March, then it'll reset back to 3 and 12 again. It's all very confusing, but I do hope we see you guys on the daily show every day. Thank you so much. And in at number 2, Gunther. Now, of course, we saw earlier this year they started building something between Gunther and Goldberg. Gunther called Goldberg out. Goldberg jumped over the rail. He was fuming. He got up all in his face, and they were clearly telling some sort of story. So, Goldberg versus Gunther, well, it's probably the most likely option out of anything on this list. Now, it's not number 1 because I do think there is a better possible option, which I'll get into in a minute. But here's the massive upside with Gunther. We know he is experienced in the ring, and we know he can get a banger out of anybody. He has a natural ability, a really rare ability, to be able to adapt his style to his opponent, to the strengths of his opponent. And therefore, I do think probably out of anybody on this list, he'll put on the best match with Goldberg. So why isn't he at number 1? Well, mainly because I don't think Gunther needs it, right? Gunther is already a world champion. He's the longest reigning Intercontinental champion. I don't really know what the benefit of him beating Goldberg would really be. So for that reason, I'd actually call this the safe option, right? A sensible option and a good option, but a safe option still. And if I did have to predict one they're going to do right now, this would be the choice. But it's not the choice that I would go for. Because in at number 1, I'm going with Bron Breakker. Now, these guys, I mean, they are so familiar. Bron Breakker is almost a modern-day Goldberg, but slightly better in the ring already. But here's the thing, right? They were both NFL guys. They were both, college football players as well. And they both used the spear. There is a natural, easy storyline to tell us here, and that is that Goldberg comes back and accuses Bron Breakker of trying to copy him. And a lot of people online, a lot of wrestling fans have actually said a similar thing, that Bron Breakker is trying to mimic Goldberg a little bit too much. So this storyline, this feud, could be a great way for Bron Breakker to step out of Goldberg's shadow and prove he is his own guy. And this match would undoubtedly be more of a sprint, not a marathon, right? It would be over very, very quickly, but that benefits Goldberg so much, and we know Bron Breakker can work that style too. It'll be like spear, jackhammer, all stuff like that, right? But I do think for the 5 minute it goes, it would be thoroughly enjoyable, and it would elevate Bron Breakker to an even higher heights, right? It would put him in World Championship territory straight away. So yeah, if I had the pen, Bron Breakker would be my choice to retire Goldberg in the summer. I think it would be a fun match and do Bron Breakker the world of good while benefiting Goldberg's in-ring style and getting the most out of him. But who do you guys want to see Goldberg face in his retirement match? Did I mention them, or is it an entirely different name? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I will be reading and replying to every single one of them. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys all have a fantastic day. Peace! Also, I hope Arsenal win today. We're already 7-1 up against PSV, but, no harm getting a few more goals, eh?